Government at the Heritage Foundation and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General. Mr. Malcolm, good to have you.
Pleasure to be with you.
So another thing that President Trump told Maria in that interview is that he won't specifically ask Supreme Court candidates about their position on Roe v. Wade. However, as you know, the president is shopping from a list of conservative candidates compiled by the Federalist Society. So does that guarantee that Roe v. Wade will be overturned or altered significantly?
No, of course not. You would think anytime there's a Supreme Court vacancy that abortion was the only issue that would come up to the high court. The court, of course, considers a whole slew of issues that are important to our country. And the justices tend to move very, very cautiously. The list of 25 names are very high quality men and women with distinguished records. So far as I am aware, the only person on that list who has taken a public position on Roe versus Wade is Bill Pryor of the 11th Circuit. Perhaps Senator Mike Lee has made statements about Roe versus Wade, but these people haven't taken public positions on Roe versus Wade, nor will they do so during the confirmation hearings.
Now, you just heard Senator Collins say that she is concerned that the president is only choosing from that list of 21 to 25 candidates, and she'd like the president to go beyond that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't know why she's concerned about the people on that list. Look, there are some high-quality individuals who are not on that list. I'd be perfectly happy if they were named as Supreme Court justices, but I see no reason for the president to deviate from that list. It's an outstanding list of people who are committed textualists and originalists, who are fair, fair-minded, independent, who show every promise of being outstanding associate justices on the Supreme Court.
And I spoke with someone from the Federalist Society yesterday, the organization that compiled that list, and we were talking about Roe v. Wade, and he said that he didn't think that it would automatically be overturned. However, he could foresee some of the decisions handed back down to the state. Now, if state restrictions are upheld, won't that in effect make abortion illegal due to state-imposed aggressive restrictions?
Well, if Roe versus Wade is overturned, and I'm not predicting that it will be, the issue would be returned to the states. Some states will, as was the case before Roe versus Wade, will decide. They will have liberal abortion laws, and some states would outlaw abortion laws until Roe versus Wade is overturned. And again, it might not be. The court will consider, I suppose, over time, different regulations that the states enact with respect to abortion, as they have done over the years with Justice Kennedy on the court. None of that will change. The Supreme Court does, on occasion, overrule precedent, but all of the justices have respect for precedent, and these sorts of snap judgments, they're not snap judgments. They take place gradually and over time. But, this is what the Democrats do. Everybody wants independent judges, but they want commitments from the nominees for the issues that they happen to like. On the left, it's abortion, same-sex marriage. On the right, it's campaign finance laws and gun rights, and no nominee is going to commit to be bound in the future on any of these issues, and that's appropriate.
Let's take a look at a Kaiser Family Foundation poll on Roe v. Wade. 2/3, 67% of the public do not want the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, compared to 29% who do. You've got 53% of Republicans would like to see Roe v. Wade overturned, compared to 23% of independents and 16% Democrats. So, John, I ask you, is the country better served to have a new Supreme Court justice chosen and confirmed before or after the midterm elections?
Well, there will be a justice before the midterm elections, unless the nominee is voted down, which I do not anticipate happening. Judges should be interpreting the laws of our land, whether they are statutes or the Constitution, based on how those laws are written. They should not be governed by popularity polls, which can, of course, change over time on any issue, abortion included.
All right, I'll move on. 1 week from tomorrow, as you well know, John, President Trump wants to select a candidate. Understanding, of course, that the president, he has had time to sit with his list of candidates provided by the Federalist Society. Would this give the Senate ample time to vet, review past recordings and rulings, hold hearings, and then confirm the president's pick before November 6th?
Sure. I want to push back on one thing you've said. This was not a list provided by the Federalist Society. The president has also credited me, actually, with coming up a list from the Heritage Foundation that helped inform his thinking. This was a list that was compiled by White House counsel Don McGahn. He received input from a number of organizations, including people at the Federalist Society, but this is not the Federalist Society's list. I've heard it's been outsourced to the Heritage Foundation. The Federalist Society, nothing could be further from the truth. And the answer to your question is yes. If there is a nominee on July 9th, there is no reason why they can't schedule confirmation hearings for the latter part of August, perhaps right after Labor Day, after a suitable time for courtesy calls, and then they can certainly have those hearings and have a vote to confirm that nominee before the Supreme Court resumes its sittings the first Monday in October.
So, John, if the Heritage Foundation were to make a recommendation to Supreme Court justices in this politically contentious environment, what would it be?
Well, I in fact made a number of recommendations. 7 of the 8 names that I put forth are on the president's list. I don't have any particular favorites. The ones that I think are going to get the most consideration are likely to be Brett Kavanaugh, who is on my list, Tom Hardiman of the Third Circuit, Raymond Kethledge, Amul Thapar, and if the president is inclined to nominate a woman, I think that Joan Larson and Amy Barrett will get a serious look. All of these are very distinguished jurists. Judge Barrett has only been on the Seventh Circuit for a short period of time, but she had a distinguished academic record and certainly held up tremendously well, grace under fire during her highly contentious confirmation hearings. So any of those names and others that are on the Trump list would be outstanding Supreme Court justices.
So therefore, you wouldn't have any recommendations for those individuals?
Well, I've made recommendations. I put forward a list of 8.
Them, meaning would you have any advice to them in terms of how they might proceed from this point forward?
Oh, I think they are all very capable of explaining their judicial philosophy. They have a lot of go-bys in terms of past confirmation hearings, and I have no doubt that anybody on that list whom the president nominates will do a fine job during the confirmation hearings, just as Neil Gorsuch did last year.
Okay, we leave it there. John Malcolm, I appreciate your time this morning and talking to us, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again.
Great to be with you.
Thank you.
Another Fox's alert for you in Idaho. 9 people have been rushed to the hospital in Boise. They happen to be the victims